Welcome to Harmonyum LA, the podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Heedy Gandolfi, emotional wellness expert, founder of Harmonyum LA, and published author. The world needs healing now more than ever. My goal is to bring you inspiring conversations, tips, and techniques that will help you build a sustainable healing toolkit. The Harmonyum LA podcast is the only resource you will need to slow down, stop searching, and start healing. Welcome back to the show, another episode of Stop Searching and Start Healing. So today, my guest is, she's an amazing woman, actually. I'm really excited to have her talk to you today about who she is, what she does, and her purpose on this planet, because she has been really a huge part of my healing journey in the last couple of years, not only from the standpoint of actually having received treatments from her as a client, but also in as much as her support and guidance for me as I became a Harmonium practitioner, as I went through the training process, as I became a practitioner myself. This woman has really been a key part of supporting and guiding me and sharing her wisdom and knowledge through the process. So let me give you a bit of a background about her, and then we will bring her in and let her do the talking. Courtney Miller is a co-founder of Naam LA and director of Harmonyum. A lifelong student of the nature of patterns, internalized beliefs, and habits, Courtney is a wellness expert that specializes in guiding people to break free of intergenerational trauma and conditioning through the applied knowledge and healing application of divine spiritual wisdom, the laws that govern nature, humans, and the energetic world. Courtney believes in the innate power and goodness in every human being and has dedicated her life to helping others in their healing journey to progressively move from self-rejection to self-acceptance and from self-sabotage to self-love in order to live a life of health, happiness, and positive contribution to life. So let me bring Courtney into the show. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here on the show. I cannot wait to share you and your experiences and your wisdom and your knowledge with everybody that is listening today to the show. Such a gift to have you here.
I am so grateful to be here. It is like a big blessing, and I've just been looking forward to it ever since you asked me, and I'm just so happy that the day finally came.
And I know, and we're twinning, and we had it all coordinated, we had it all going on, and we didn't even realize. So aligned, so connected. So let's just talk a little bit about you to start with, because obviously you have this incredible wealth of knowledge and experience. And I was just saying in the intro, you know, how you've been such an integral part of my healing process. You know, I've had a good number of sessions from you as a client, and you have just like this incredible, powerful way of distributing your Harmonium treatments. But also, there we go, there's a sign right there.
I was like, what?
Yes, that's just a confirmation. But also just the way that you've guided and supported me as I went through training to become a practitioner myself, because, you know, yes, I've always been quite spiritual and very much into that realm, but not to the extent that someone like you. I mean, you've been in these teachings with this wisdom for a good couple of decades now. So do you want to talk to us about your journey and how you actually came to be in this field?
Yes, thank you. I would love to. I was always, ever since I was a little girl, when I first heard, I didn't grow up in a religious household, but I did grow up with like Lutheran and with those stories. And when I was first, I had a children's Bible book, and when I first read that story, that this person named Jesus was able to heal somebody just by his presence, just by somebody touching his cloak. You know, I wasn't there, but it was this story, and it touched me, and it resonated with something inside of me. And ever since I heard that story, I thought, that's what I want. I want that. I want to be that person that can go out in the world and can cause a healing in people around me, whether I talk to them or I don't talk to them, whether they, you know, I didn't know, but my heart as like this 6-year-old girl totally knew.
You did know, deep down, you did know. That resonated on such a core level with you that you did know, unknowingly knew.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, that, I can do that. I want to do that. That's what I want to do. So ever since then, that has been in my mind,
Mm.
in the forefront or in the back. And then eventually I went through, life, right? And then I found myself moving to New York. I'm from Texas. And one of the reasons I moved to New York was because I was ready to find a teacher.
Right.
And I was blessed. I've always been blessed with amazing teachers.
Mm.
And, but I've been with my last teacher who he taught me Iyengar yoga and Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic and Sufi and all these kind of wisdom. But
Mm.
I knew I was ready to like find my next teacher. And I moved to New York as an opera singer and looking for my next teacher. And 3 weeks into New York, I found the center that Dr. Levry opened. And a month later, he was my teacher.
And how long ago was that?
That was in 2001.
Wow. So 20 years this year.
Yeah.
20-year anniversary of working with Dr. Levry. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is amazing and kind of a little funny, like a funny, interesting, divine thing. The day I chose, and I consciously chose the day I wanted to be my first day in New York, even though I didn't officially know the laws of nature or anything that I know now. I was like, I know summer solstice is an important day. That's going to be my day. I gave myself 6 weeks. It was like this, one of those decisions. I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm moving and it's going to be June 21st. And I landed June 21st, early in the morning because I'd taken a late night flight. And that happened to be the first day that Universal Forest Healing Center opened. So, and that was the first center that Dr. Levry had.
Beautiful.
So it was amazing, like how it all mapped out.
So where were you in your headspace when you got there? I mean, were you in a really solid place, or were you there searching? You were looking for healing, you were looking for change. Where were you on your journey?
I was actually in a super solid place. I had been getting acupuncture every week for a couple of years. I was swimming. I was doing Iyengar yoga, like teaching, and 3 to 5 days a week. And I'd been coming from doing Iyengar yoga 2 to 3 times a day. I was swimming. I was biking. I was like physically, emotionally, mentally, I was like in my A game. I was like, and so I didn't think I needed anything really. So it was funny when I happened upon the center 3 weeks after being in New York, and I was like, should I go in? Should I not? I finally went in. They offered me a job. I'm like, I don't need a job. I already have some jobs. I'm good. Which, in New York, and as a yoga teacher, like, that is not the normal response. If someone says, we're looking for a teacher, we want you, and you wouldn't really get like, no, thank you. I don't need a job. Right. So that's where I was coming from. But I was very, very intent that there were certain things I wanted to learn about that I couldn't find that knowledge from anywhere. I'd always be in like the occult section of the bookstore on family book trips. I had bookstore trips. I'd always be looking at the astrology and the hands and the face and the handwriting. And I was getting into Carlos Castaneda books and dreaming. But I'm like, I knew there was so much more. And I'm like, where do you find this? And that's what I wanted a teacher for. Right. And that's Dr. Levry. Dr. Levry is, I made a list. I didn't even know about altars really, but when I moved to New York, I kind of created this space and I made a list of everything I wanted to learn. And after a few weeks of taking class with Dr. Levry, I realized I don't need 10 teachers. I just need this one teacher. And that he was also able to teach me things that I hadn't even imagined that I wanted to learn. It was like a homecoming. It was amazing.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And I was so grateful. I was like, oh, I don't have to run around like going to this Carlos Castaneda meeting here and this acupuncture thing here and this, like, it was all in Dr. Levry. Like, that is what a spiritual master is. They can open up the doors to like the libraries of the world.
Well, there's such a wealth of knowledge and it's so expansive and it's just not limited in any regard, is there? It's just so deep and unknowing, and there's literally, you'll just uncover one thing after another that you just had no idea. And it's doesn't suck you in, but you just become almost obsessed in a way to wanting to learn and knowing more, because it's so practical in its application too.
Exactly, because what I was thinking is like, I don't know, you get to some point where you're like in touch with what's inside of you and you can listen to that voice. And if you're in touch with that and then you're presented with this wisdom, this knowledge, that voice inside of you recognizes that to be true, even if your mind doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I just want people to know that I am also kind of like relatable. When I first took my class with Dr. Levry, I was like, I don't think I'm coming back.
We all go through that experience. The first time, I was like, what is this? Nope.
You're like, what is this? I don't think I'm coming back. But what happened is like the days went by, because it was his weekly class. All of the kind of like, what is this? I don't understand this. This is not, all that kind of settled. And by the time it came time for the next week, that little voice in me was like, this is what you want. This is what you need. Like, this is what you're looking for. And thank God there was a whole week in between, because maybe I wouldn't have gone back if it was like the very next day. So for months, every week I went through that process. Because when you start to learn the laws of nature that govern human beings, and dare I say, that govern the divine world, the spiritual world, the energetic world, because it's so foreign to us in our daily life, it can make you feel skeptical. It can make you feel like you don't trust it. It can make you feel all sorts of things, because we have this Western mind, show me and then I'll believe it.
Yeah.
And so that's why you really need to be able to listen inside, because inside you recognize it. When you hear the words coming out of that, it for me is Dr. Levry's mouth. My brain might be kind of like, what? But my heart recognizes it. It feels at home. Like I recognize the truth. And so that ability to recognize the truth, it was like he was telling me something I already knew.
Yes.
So I was able to trust that.
That's the word right there. So it's not tangible by any means, but you can trust it. If you trust of it and you can feel it inside and you trust that inner knowing, that's when it starts to make sense and just feels like you are so deep into that knowledge already.
Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, I know this. You're like, remind me of all the other things that I know.
So then fast forward 20 years and you've gone from walking into that space saying, no, I don't want a job here, to now, of course, co-founding Naam LA and becoming the director of Harmonyum. So what a huge turnabout from your
That's funny, right?
Right?
I never would have guessed.
What a journey that was. And how was that journey? I mean, from your perspective, did you start then to realize that everything was as solid as you felt it was when you first arrived there? Or did you start to realize fairly quickly that actually things weren't so solid and there was a whole bunch of stuff going on that you weren't even tapped into?
Well, I would say somewhat the latter. My Iyengar teacher, Bakir Algan, God rest his soul, he used to say, if you come to class and you think you have a problem, you'll leave class with no problem. If you come to class and you don't think you have a problem, you will leave with a problem.
Oh, I love that.
Which just speaks to a perception, right? And our awareness and our consciousness. So I went in thinking, I'm cool, I just want to learn some things, to realizing like, wow, I have a lot inside that is keeping me from being my best self, to use like modern language. I didn't experience it that way. I experienced it the way the mystics call it, the dark night of the soul. And it wasn't a single night, it was years. It wasn't something that I like went to bed and woke up and everything was fine. It was a process. And honestly, I'm still going through that process. And I think what happens is, I'm sure everybody has different ways of saying this, but right, it's like an onion. You peel back layers, you go through layers, and then you make a shift, and then you have some peace rest time, and then you go deeper, and then, because there's no limit to how much our consciousness can expand.
Exactly. Oh. So talk to us a bit about that.
Well, what I would say is, as painful as it has been internally, right? Because on the outside, like I'm super optimistic, I'm very positive, like, and all of that's true. It's authentic. It's how I am.
Yeah.
But I'm also a human being. I'm also a soul on a journey. My soul is like, I came here to do some work. We have to do some work. So I have that going on too, And so that journey of my soul so far, it is painful. And you do understand what mystics say when they say like human beings primarily learn through suffering, and that there's no birth of consciousness without that sacrifice, without that pain. Like the wisdom comes from the pain. Like, and the way that we say is like, think of about a woman who's giving birth to a child. Like that child is the symbol of the divine. It's that light, it's that love. But the woman has to go through the carrying, the labor, the delivery. And so that is how it is. It is a very real process that for me, as I sit here right now, what I have come to the conclusion is that the essence of all of any challenges that I've experienced in life, my filters, my condition, whatever, it comes down to self-worth. And so as I peel back that layer, I see more and more that absence of self-worth. And it's so weird because on the outside you can be like so confident, so this, so that, you think you're cool, but then when you start to like go deeper, okay, why isn't this working in my life? Why isn't this working in my life? Why am I having problems here in my relationship or in my career or even in my health? Like depending on your planetary influences, like my body has changed shape so many times in the last 20 years. But underneath that has to do with those internalized beliefs that at some point came from low self-worth, low self-respect. And I'm somebody who is blessed to be raised in a family that believed in me, that believed in like women's equality, that believed in my intelligence. And so and so my internalized beliefs, a lot of them came from what I observed outside of me, not necessarily from the words my parents gave me. And so I can only imagine, I have so much compassion for people who have that, plus whatever kind of destructive conversations, words, experiment in your immediate family environment. It just gets layered and layered. And we as human beings, if you look around and you see all the stress, all the tension, all the anger, all the suffering, all the resentment, all the blaming, we are products of where we came from, right? And then our parents are products of where they came from. And like this talk of ancestor work that's becoming more and more popular, it's so needed. And for me, in my mind, like as a Harmonyum practitioner and director of Harmonyum, I think of ancestor work, I think of like intergenerational trauma. And I think of like, yes, that is what we need to clear that. We need to address that. We need to heal that. We need to release that. And then that's where for me, why I am here 20 years later going like, no, I don't need a job, to like, I want to do this. I want to be a leader for this. I want to be a leader for bringing this in the world, because this is the primary modality that has helped me on my personal soul journey.
Yes.
And I know if it can help me, I know it can help others. And as you said, like it helps you, it helps all my clients, it helps anybody I know who's committed to receiving it and participating in that journey.
And I can relate to every single thing that you just said right there. It's exactly all of those things. It's the lack of self-worth, and whether that, like you say, has come from your lifetime or from previous, through this intergenerational trauma that we talk about. And we do as practitioners talk about that a lot. Sometimes it's not even the things that you are carrying around yourself from this lifetime, but it's from previous. And it's
exactly. Most of it is.
And that's what we don't see. And that's when Dr. Levy's always saying, 99% of what we don't see is what hurts us. So we only see 1% of our reality. And so a lot of the time we don't even know what we're working on or how it even came to being, but we know that there's something there. I mean, I remember my first session with Dr. Levy, similar kind of thing. Like, I know I need to go because I know I've got stuff that I need to deal with, but I'm fine. Like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know I'm fine. But I so was not fine. The first thing to do is you need harmonium. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And fine, whatever, I'll do it. I'll do whatever I have to. And it was not until then, like you say, and then you start to realize how many layers, peeling back one layer, and the tears start to fall. And then you peel back another layer, and then it's the tears are falling even more, and on and on and on. And it's just a process going through. But so let's talk about harmonium from that perspective then, because obviously that's something, it's a modality that, well, it's changed my life, period, the end. I mean, that's, and as you are, I'm a huge pioneer for it, for that very reason. And it's, you know, I feel it's my duty now to share with other people, to talk to people about it, because we all need it. But why don't you talk to us about harmonium?
Okay, harmonium is one of my favorite things to talk about. Harmonium, we refer to it now as a healing system because there are so many techniques within harmonium for specific different needs. We have different techniques. Harmonium, at its essence, I say it's an energetic healing technique. It's an energetic modality. But it's not some willy-nilly, I do what I feel like, oh, I'm seeing you have this, so I'm going to do this. No. It's much more Western in a sense. Like there's a protocol, there's a sequence, there's a technique. We do the same technique every time we do that particular harmonium technique. And because it's an application of laws. You know, in our daily life, we have scientists, right? Scientists, one of their jobs is they discover the laws of nature. They tell us about gravity. They tell us about momentum. They tell us about energy, right? Harmonium is a healing modality that is an application of the laws of nature so that you can come into harmony with nature, specifically your nature. Because all upsetness, let's call it upsetness, or all challenges, all imbalances, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, all of that is because we have violated, let's say, a law of nature. Kind of like, let me say, it's kind of heavy to use the word violate, but I'm going to just give you an example like a car. Right. When we drive, there's traffic lights, right? When it's red, we know to stop. That's the law of traffic lights. Right. When it's green, we go. When it's yellow, we slow down. We, as human beings, because of, I believe in the innate goodness of life. I believe that we were not born to suffer. I believe that this planet is a gift for us. I believe that we're here to express our divinity. And so when we talk about violating the laws of nature, what I'm really talking about is like when we use our thoughts against ourselves. When we speak negatively against ourselves, that is a simple, perfect example of what I call violating the laws of nature. Every time we say something negative to ourselves, or mean, or judgmental, or anything like that, we're violating the structure that was created for us to have life in. And there's only so many times you can run a red light without getting a ticket.
That's so powerful.
Right? And how many thoughts a day do we have? Like people count, some people say I don't know how people can say, oh, we have 1,000, blah, blah, blah. Where did that come from? I don't know.
But those are negative, right? There's a certain percentage, however they've counted it, but it's true. Like the majority of the thoughts that everybody's thinking daily are negative.
Yes. And so when you break it down to that most basic element, human beings, we are violating the laws of nature almost every second of every day. How could it not then, because of the way our brain and our neurological system then gives information to the rest of our body, how could that not create challenges for us in our life, in our physical life, in our life around us, in our life with our relationships? How could it not? You know, and my dad used to always tell me, he's a mystic, he doesn't know it, but he is a mystic. He's like, Courtney, human beings are not closed systems, because he's into computers. He's like, what do you put in goes out. And from that, what I learned is like a couple of things that are basic principles of healing. What do you put in goes out. So if you're telling yourself negative things the majority of the time, you're going to get negativity out, which can be a heart problem. It can be a joint issue. It could be a whatever. It could be a fight at home because you misinterpret something and you're defensive, and then you create chaos in your house. It could be anything. It could be a fight at work. It could be whatever. It could be underperforming. It can be acting out or reacting. And the other way is we are designed for things to go out. And so when things don't go out because they get stuck, they get stagnation, that's another way that it creates problems.
Yeah.
Especially, can you imagine if you put something negative in and then it doesn't have a way to leave?
Right.
And as human beings, we're not taught on a large scale how to process, how to transmute, how to release, how to take that negative thought and turn it into something that we can use. We're not taught that. We're not even taught to acknowledge how we feel. So we're just talking about the world of thought. Now bring it to our feeling world. And that's kind of where I come from. Like, and I've even talked to my parents about this. I was like, y'all didn't teach me what to do with my emotions. I had like a real conversation with my parents a couple of Christmases ago. And it took this long because it took this long in my life to realize myself that I didn't know what to do with my emotions. You know? When I first learned that I have a heavy Mars influence through the divine spiritual wisdom, the first thing it said was like, a lot of energy, but you're going to be prone to anger. And I'm like, anger? I don't get angry. What are you talking about? This is like a crock. Then we came back a week later, and in that week, I was observing myself because I'm like, I don't get angry. And then I was like seeing myself get irritated here or frustrated. And I was like, wait, is this what you call anger? Like, I literally was so divorced from that, those negative feelings, what I would call negative feelings. I didn't even recognize it to be able to know what it was. Well, and if you can't be...
It can't be real, because you don't see them. The emotional body and those emotions and feelings are invisible to the naked eye. So how can you even begin to justify them and to try and fix or know how to deal with them, because you can't see them?
Yeah, and you can't see them, and nobody knows what to do with them.
Exactly. So how does Harmonyum play to that then?
That is the magic of Harmonyum, and for me, because I've seen, like, when I get a lot of Harmonyum, I start to have recognition of what's happening in my emotions. It's the only thing that has shown me that. That plus Naam, like meditation, sound vibration. But when I get Harmonyum, I'm able to bring my awareness to my feelings. And then that's where it gets intense, because then you're like, whoa, I don't even know what to do with all of this. I don't know where this came from. I don't know what to do with this. I don't, And then that's where the supportive techniques come around Harmonyum. And that's also where Harmonyum in and of itself, because Harmonyum gives you that light of awareness so you can see things that you couldn't see before about yourself or situations. And in that light of awareness, there's that aha. And in that aha, then you're free. And so every time you get Harmonyum, I can feel I am more and more free. I am more and more of a free person, free, literally like that old book, free to be me.
Beautiful. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. But I think because it's this gorgeous blend, honestly, of the spirituality piece of it, which is all of that, turning the light on in the consciousness and becoming more aware of you and the beauty of you, but with the science piece of it, where you're actually working on the nervous system. And to have that blend of those two really powerful elements, I think is what makes it so unique and so different. And so
it's incredible.
In comparison to so many other modalities.
It's so simple. And I mean, I'm glad you brought up the aspect of the nervous system, because a lot of people are talking about that in health industries these days. There's a lot of attention in the last couple of years on the parasympathetic nervous system. And then from there you go to the vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve is a large part of the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And when you receive Harmonyum, the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So your body, you don't even have to do anything. You just have to receive it. Your body downshifts automatically
Mm.
from the fight or flight state into the relaxation response.
Mm.
And you move into such a deep relaxation response that you create the condition then for your body to heal itself, that self-healing mechanism,
Yeah.
which is then activated by that light, that energy that we're talking about, right? So they work hand in hand. And it's incredible. Like, everybody, you become less reactive,
Yeah.
you take things less personally, you're able to be in your center, you're not defensive, center, and you get to have a direct experience with life that's free of these filters. And it's a whole new world. It's a whole
It
new
really
world.
is.
And
It is. It's a whole new world. It's like this, and I say to people, it's like this harmonium state of mind, this harmonium state of being, where you are in harmony, not only with yourself, but with your environment and with other people in your environment.
yeah, it is.
But that's not without, it's easy and it's simple and it does all those incredible things. And it's such a vast topic. There is so much to, I mean, we could literally sit here all week and we still wouldn't touch the size of it. But with that ease and beauty of allowing that self-healing capacity to come through and the nervous system to slow down and to really begin to see that conscious way of being with a different perspective and different lens, there does come that darkness to it, because you have to, you start to see all the things that aren't serving you, and that pain, you have to move through all of that at the same time, which is part of the process. But it's elegantly done, I think, because it happens sometimes it's quite intense. I know for me, sometimes it was quite intensely, but necessary. But then you'll manage to process and digest and allow to move through it. But how we were talking the other day about now the introduction of the distance healing platform, and how in the beginning people were a little bit, skeptical about whether it could be powerful and whether it could still work in the same way. Because of course, when you're trying to heal somebody via Zoom or do a distance healing session, if you're not specifically in their space and in touching them in person, is it something that can even really work? But you and I were talking about this last week, and about how, unbeknownst to us, when we went through this training, so when Dr. Levy first realized that this was necessary last year when COVID hit, and he had to implement very quickly a way of administering Harmonyum at distance, so people could, because they really needed it more than ever, how incredibly powerful it was. And going through the training where we had to do a lot of hours in a short space of time to really get to grips with the technique, not only to be administering, to give the technique, but to receive it ourselves, so that we know how much it brought up. We didn't know this at the time, but for you and also for me, and when we talked about it, we were like, oh my gosh, we had no idea. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, we had no idea. Well, you and I were in the same boat. We were like, let's just do this and get this done. Like, I was giving and receiving Harmonium like 6 out of 7 days of the week for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Then I hit a wall. Because that is when it all really started to catch up with me. I'm like, oh my God. And I totally had to take a break, probably for like a couple of months, because I really just did quite a lot of it. And it was deeper than I could ever imagine. And I just there's one that I want to be specific about. They're all incredibly deep, but the very first technique we learned, do you remember? He said, this one is for helping people deal with the trauma that they're experiencing in their daily life right now, because everyone on the planet is going through trauma because of the pandemic and the political and the this and the that, and for the trauma that you've experienced and that's in your bloodline and in your lineage. And it's to help you go through that trauma. So I was doing a lot of that. And again, like, you think you're fine, and then all of a sudden you're like, what? And honestly, it was that experience. Plus there was another one that I really like that's super deep, that it's like, we literally call it rebuilding your body.
Well, you actually gave me one of those, and for 3 days afterwards, I remember calling, going, what have you done? This is awful. And I just can't believe, and I was just a wreck. And you're like, it's just Harmonium. You got to ride the wave.
Ride the wave, be grateful, because this is the thing. We all have our stuff. We came here for a reason. We're born on this planet for a reason. We all have our own debts, let's call it, debts that we have to pay. You know, they might not be our dads, like we're talking about our family, our parents, their parents parents, our parents, like, you know, in some scriptures they say that it's the sins of the father, you know, land on the children, and by 7 generations. So different traditions, they all have that understanding. So I believe, because we're in such a tumultuous time on this planet that we've never been in before, I believe all of us on this planet right now, we are all warriors. We are all here now because we're like, the buck stops with us. You know, that because that's what it comes down to. We're the end point, and we have to create something new individually and collectively. So we do have a lot of debts that are going to be paid and reconciled through us and through our healing process. And like when you zoom out and you look at us as a collective of humanity, and the distance harmonium techniques do what we say they will do. I would never have spoken about my soul journey in terms of recognizing a lack of self-worth and getting to that seed of that if it hadn't have been for my experience this fall with the distance harmonium. I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, self-worth, self-respect, self-value. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you know, saying the same thing. But it's another thing to like know it and think like, oh, that's that person's thing. That's not my person's thing. And then it's another thing to be through this it's a gentle process. It's an enjoyable process. I love the experience of receiving harmonium. I feel like I'm just held in this like space of so much caring and love and tenderness. And then to come out of it and then be like, okay, now here's your homework. Here's your work that you have to do because of everything that light shows you. But it's the most kind way that I've experienced to be able to get to seeing what are those debts that I need to clean up.
Oh my gosh, I can't agree with you more, Courtney, because you said we had all these sessions intensively, like literally every day, pretty much giving or receiving or both. There's distance harmonium techniques, literally from, I think there are 6 versions of distance harmonium that we can actually offer to people. And literally for 3 months just before Christmas, you hit the wall. I had the exact same experience. And so giving and receiving and being so grateful and feeling and experiencing every single time something different. But I had things come up. I had shingles again. Like it brought so much up. I had shingles once before 20 years ago with a trauma, which I thought I had dealt with at the time. And clearly I didn't, because when we were going through this distance harmonium, it was the exact same thing that came up, same place, same experience, everything, because it made me realize that was something that hadn't been healed from 20 years prior. And that was here to show me, you got to fix this. And so that was just one thing, but there were 3 months literally going through it. And then I just hit this wall, exactly as you said. I had to stop. And so for 2 months, nothing. I couldn't do a single thing. And I remember Dr. Levy said, do not have any more. Don't. And I had to allow my body to process what had come up and what had been brought to the surface and to become more aware. And that's when everything shifted. And that was when this light came on even more than before and said, you're not just here to do harmonium, but you're here to share this and to really help elevate this healing across the globe. And so do this podcast. And that's how this whole show was born as a result of that. I'd had the idea, but I didn't have the awareness to be able to go through with it. And then literally after 2 months of not receiving distance harmonium, I still had hands on, but it was like, yeah, now's the time, just do it. And being able to take all my experiences and all my own, like you say, traumas and self-worth issues and not wanting to be seen and heard, to say, no, there's a bigger purpose to this. And this is how it's going to go. And I absolutely have to say it's down to the power, the healing, and the raising of the consciousness and awareness from this distance harmonium. I can't say it enough.
I can't either. And one, I will say, thank God we had this experience, because then we can tell our clients, like, we recommend you get it once a week or twice a week instead of, unless you want to go. Or what I'm working with people, if you want to have like that big shift, we can do it 3 or 4 times a week, and we can check in at the end of each week and we can see where you're at. Because some people are like, hey, I have nothing to lose. I am like stuck in life. My life is not working for me on any level, and I need something to change. I need to change.
Yeah, making that decision.
Yeah, and then there's that possibility. And I think why I am so deeply grateful for Harmonium really comes down to the fact of like, it's one thing to know intellectually what we need, and it's another thing to have a means whereby you can walk that path to get what you need. People know like self-realization, self-actualization, be my best self, whether you're speaking it in like corporate language or like spiritual language, we all know that we're a gold mine. Each one of us is a gold mine of opportunity and possibility. And we can know because you go to bed at night and maybe you had a great day, but there's always that feeling like I can do more, like I can be more. And not from the whole hustle mentality, not from the like work hard, do hard, not from that, but just like that there's something inside of us that wants to be given life to, but the how.
And also that disconnect.
Harmonium does.
That's it. And like you said earlier, when you're talking about that block that you're not even fully aware of, so you have that disconnect, that can play so much into stopping us from manifesting the lives that we want and deserve.
Exactly. And this is an age where we, as Dr. Levy has said many times, you need to do what you love, and you need to love what you do, or you'll be, let's put it in a nice way, you will be restless until you find that.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it's your career, but also it's like, what are you doing in your life? How are you spending your hours? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And our conditioning and the things that we've internalized, because sometimes also I learned in Harmonium by my experience, I internalized experiences or words around me that person never intended for me to take that way.
Yeah.
But because of my conditioning, I heard it in a certain way. And then I gave meaning. There's a lot of, that's popular to say what we give meaning to, like humans are meaning making machines. I gave meaning to it in a way that was hurtful to me. And that wasn't even intended sometimes, right? So we have to, we deserve to live life free of those filters that make our life unhappy. We deserve to be happy. We deserve to be fulfilled. We deserve to be satisfied in life.
Totally.
We deserve that.
100%.
And every single person deserves that on this planet.
And it's available to every single person too.
Yeah.
Again, the stories we tell ourselves, oh no, this is my life and this is what I have and I can't change it. But it's those stories, and it's making the decision that you're ready to change, that you want to change. And I love to say to people, sometimes Harmonium won't necessarily resonate with you because you might not be ready to receive it. So you really have to be ready to make that shift. I mean, it's going to benefit everybody for sure. But when you're really looking to make that huge shift and that huge change, you've got to be ready, because the minute you start having Harmonium, something will shift. Your life is going to change in a great way, but you have to be ready for that. And if you're looking to have 2 or 3 sessions a week, you're going to have to hold on to your hats because it's going to go fast. And you need to be ready to run with that and to make that step into this new way of living, to this new way of being, in this new space of consciousness and self-healing, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Harmonium will be a catalyst for the change in your life so that you can move towards something that's more fulfilling. So you really do want to be ready for that change. You want to be ready to move from feeling like everything's happening to you to being somebody who can say, you know what, I can impact my life.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to that self-worth thing, because when you are absent of that self-worth, it really feels like you don't have a say in your life. It really does feel like I have to do this because of this, and that is a real experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why we can get stopped from making a change and moving into that place of, hey, I actually can do what I want that makes me happy, that's going to create a life that I love, because we believe that other reality so long, and because we lived that was our life for so long. But it's time to change that. We have to change that.
So if somebody, absolutely, we have to change it, and it's up to us to make that change for sure. And sometimes people don't really know how to even begin. And so it's just about having the confidence to take the first step, and always starting with baby steps. And it doesn't matter how small, as long as you're making a step to change and to do something which is going to help to elevate you from where you are to where you want to be. So if people are listening to this and they think, oh my God, this sounds amazing, and I really want to have Harmonyum, or even people that might be listening, because so many people I found, because it's exactly what happened to me, but will start to have Harmonyum as a client and see and feel the benefits and the dramatic and drastic changes in their life, and then think, this is something that I need to do. And some people, as I have done, will embrace it as a career moving forward, because not only are you then helping to heal yourself on a daily basis and part of the practice, but you're then able to offer it to help heal other people. And so, you know, in order, and we'll talk about the trainings, right? Because of course, the way that everything shifted last year and how we weren't able to do hands-on, and we had to, Dr. Levy created this now distance platform, opened up a whole new realm, because previously people had to either be in LA or in New York or in Germany to actually be able to train and become practitioners. But now, of course, this is amazing, because we have the opportunity for people wherever they are in the world to train and become certified practitioners, and to either just do it because they want to do it for themselves and for their friends and family, or because they really feel that they want to be able to take it as a career path, because so many people need this now more than ever. And healing is what we're all moving to. We have to, in order to start to heal collectively, globally, we've got to start embracing healing and unconditional love on all levels. So let's talk about training, the training aspect, and how people can even think about doing and being.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up. We have our year all lined up. The first thing that we're offering is something called Harmonyum Touch. And it's specifically Harmonyum Touch through the feet. And it is a physical treatment with the Harmonyum energetic component.
Right.
And first of all, what you learn in Harmonyum is you can heal the body and create like a complete healing change through the access points of the spine, through the head, and through your hands, and through your feet. So up until a couple of years ago, all of the Harmonyum that we were offering was aimed at working through the spine and the head. But the Harmonyum Touch is the first technique that we're offering that is outside of that. So we're going to the feet. And one of the reasons why I'm super pleased that we're able to share this is because it's such an easy way for people to experience Harmonyum, because people are feet rub, they might go to a reflexologist, or they might, you know, when they get a pedicure, they might say, yes, will you add 10 minutes on to massage my feet? So people understand foot massage, right? And like, again, my dad, he doesn't like massage, but he's like, I'll take a foot massage any day.
Right.
So we have this Harmonyum Touch through the feet, and it's a system where you can literally heal the person. You're not just working on the physical body, you're working on their energetic body. You're working at a subtle level as well as the physical level. So even for people who are, you know, understandably skeptical in the beginning, like we were talking about, right? They might be skeptical of energy work. You can say, no problem. Let me give you Harmonyum Touch. All you have to do is lay down. I'm going to massage your feet. It's going to be amazing. And we've had incredible results with Harmonyum Touch, incredible healing results. And that's going to be the first thing that we're offering this year, because, you know, there's different places of the world that are starting to open up now. People are able in some places to start doing that one-on-one kind of healing sessions. And so we want to be able to get this out there while we have those opportunities, right? And then in addition, we will be offering the distance Harmonyum later this year, because then you also see around the world, as some places are opening, other countries are starting to close again.
Right. Yeah, look at Europe. So it's just these waves.
Yeah, so we want to be prepared, because as you said so beautifully, we need healing now. Healing is going to be an increasing theme for people on this planet, because there's so much to be healed. From the planet Earth to us as humans, to the systems that create the structure of life. And there's honestly, I can't I can't think of a better time for people who feel called to offering healing services to do this, to get trained now, you know?
And you don't have to have a background in healing. So let's just be clear about that too. So if someone's listening and they think, oh God, I would love to do that, but I've been a lawyer all my life, or I've always worked in finance or corporate, it actually doesn't matter, because regardless of where you've been, to come into Harmonyum as a practitioner, and starting with Harmonium Touch, I mean, yes, there's elements, I'm guessing, of reflexology and acupressure and all those things, but it's not specific to those. So you don't need to have that knowledge and understanding to actually start.
Correct. You don't need to have any background at all. And we've got it. I think it's like a really great, simple, organized. We've made it as short as possible for people so that they can go through it, get certified, and you can start making,
Right.
you know, in as quickly as 15 weeks.
It's a 15-week online program.
The first Harmonium. Yes. Yeah, you don't have to travel. And it is supported with some live sessions, and it is supported with some mentor one-on-one type time. And the first group will begin May 24th. It's a Monday. That's when we'll release those videos, release that program. We'll have a live session to start. And then there'll be 6 weeks where you study, you learn, you practice. And then you'll have like what we call a qualifying practicum, where you'll have time with a mentor. They can observe you do the technique. We can make sure you're doing it properly. And then we'll say, go give 30 sessions.
This is so exciting for me to hear, because there are not enough Harmonium practitioners on the planet. In my opinion, there are not. Like, everybody needs to have had this or to have experienced it, because every single person can benefit from it at some point. And so this is so exciting that now there is no limit to people being able to access this technique and its benefits and the healing capacity that it offers to people, and to be able to do it online in your own home. So you can utilize this time if you are back in lockdown or just struggling with, I like to call it re-entry trauma. You know, some of us just aren't ready to go back out into reality just yet. And so getting so used to being at home, to be able to utilize that time, self-paced, on your own time, to be able to learn this technique is
at
so
your own
exciting.
schedule.
Yes.
And that's one of the great things that happened out of this last year, because I've always been like, Harmonium, it's an in-person training. You need to be there. You need to have somebody watching. You need to have somebody, all of that. And this past year required us to get more creative, to see how can we provide something online that will give people that feeling of support, help people feel confident that they know what they're doing. And how do we create that online? So it's really exciting that we have found a way.
You've done it, of course, because it's needed and it's necessary. And so there is always going to be a way that it works out. And to be able to have that reflective time, it was necessary in some regards for us to be able to move forward into this new dimension with these different techniques that are so necessary. So to start with, the Harmonium Touch is an amazing gateway into Harmonium, into the wisdom and the teachings. And then from there, being able to move into, I'm guessing, all the other different levels that will all then be online as well. It's a great access point for people.
Yes, we're going to offer the Harmonium 1 this year, which is our quintessential Harmonium technique, addressing the trauma of the past, whether it's your personal past or, again, from your lineage past. And we're also the Harmonium at a distance. And we're going to have a new course coming out too with Dr. Levry, which we will stay tuned for more information about.
Watch this space.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you come back and talk about that once that's all up and running.
Great.
Then we'll just come back and just keep sharing, because there's just so much to it. Like I say, you could go on and on and on and still not have even scratched the surface with everything, with all of it. So we'll put, so for people that are interested, that want to know more just about you, about the system, about healing, about Harmonium, or even potentially looking to book to take this training, we will put all of the links in the show notes with all the access to you and everything that they would need. So if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to you directly, and you'll be able to just share with them everything that they need to know, just to move this forward and just to help all of us.
It's my greatest joy. I'll be so happy.
Wonderful. Listen, Courtney, normally I always say to people, what's the one tip, if there was something that you could offer to the audience that are listening now, just something that they could really utilize as a tool if they're really struggling right now and just really feeling disconnected or lost? Is there kind of something that, you have so many different tools, no doubt, but something that just really calls to you that you would like to share today?
Yes, thank you for asking, because this is something I even tell people who are curious about Harmonyum, but they're kind of not sure, because they're not used to working with their energy body, or they don't really know what that means. And so for me, I always direct people to the breath. Because if somebody wants to come to any kind of emotional state, anxiety, angry, frustrated, panic, any kind of those things that drive us to seek healing, because we know those are signs that something's off, you can always take a few minutes and you can start to bring peace to yourself in the moment with your breath. Harmonium will get you to the root cause, which is important when you're talking about your life and your life experience. But breath can help you in the moment. And so there's something we call 3-part breath, and it takes care of your glandular system and the hormones that it's secreting. It rebalances the nervous system so that you move out of the fight or flight, and it helps change the chemistry of your blood so that you have that tranquil feeling. Your hormones are not driving you to have these certain agitating emotions. And it takes as little as 3 minutes, and it is my go-to, and it has always been my go-to ever since I first learned it. It's my favorite thing to share with people in the moment. And you all may have even heard about this, and you may even practice it, and this might just be a reminder to you to do it, because there's a difference between knowing it
Absolutely.
and doing it. So you inhale, you hold the breath, you exhale. It's that simple. And then the thing what you want to do is count, so you have the same amount of time for each of the 3 segments. So if I'm really worked up, I might not be able to do my normal 20 second. If I'm worked up and agitated, I might need to count for 10 or count for 5. Or if I'm in the middle of like a panic attack, because thank God that doesn't happen hardly at all, but it still happens sometimes. And so I'll have to do it for like a count of 3, and then 3, and then 3. And then I can extend it to inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5. And that's another reason why I love it, because it can help you at wherever you're at on that scale of 1 to 10. It can help you, and then you'll slow it down, and you'll slow it down, and you'll slow it down. And in 3 minutes, you have a different experience.
This brings you back to center, doesn't it? And Dr. Levy loves to say the mind will always follow the breath. So if you can slow down the breath, slow down the mind, and that just makes everything, even just for that moment, just so much easier to think and navigate through.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your knowledge and your wealth and all of your just amazing qualities. I'm so grateful, and thank you.
Thank you for having me. I just love you so much, Jess. And I cannot say enough good things about you. You're such a bright star, and I'm so grateful that you're following your heart, and that you're doing this podcast, and that life is working through you to bring harmonium to people all over the world, because we need it.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Oh, all right, darling. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, I'll see you next time. I love you too.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly hope that you enjoyed the show, and there is at least one thing that you can take away from today's episode that will help you build that sustainable healing toolkit. It would mean the absolute world to me if you would subscribe to the show, give it a 5-star review, and share this or any of the other episodes with somebody that you feel could really benefit by listening. I look forward to seeing you next time.